At the beginning of like your career, your instinct is to just do more, to sort of justify your place in the equation. It's already there. Like, if you're not adding, don't do it. The hardest thing to build up with any artist is trust. And once you have a little bit of trust, you can do what you want. That's freedom, man.
Look in my eyes, tell me your tale, do you see the road? I'm out to my soul, and tell me the size whenever the smoke clear out of my face and my picture perfect, do I look right?
So today we're going to look at 5 different artists, ranging from an Italian singer, songwriter, to Travis Scott, to Norah Jones, to Melanie Gardot, and David Bowie. All radically different artists requiring very unique treatments of vocal and production, and with their own inherent style, which I'm really going to try and dive into their own particular thing, and I'm going to talk you through some of the effects I'm using, how I build the effects, why I'm going to use certain effects, so more digital sounding reverbs to more realistic emulations of reverbs, to very short delays and tricks on widening. What I'm definitely going to try and do with all of these artists and all of these mark tracks is make individual unique sort of effects for them. If I don't use reverbs in preset modes and so on, it's going to allow that not to date. And I'm always looking to mix records where it's not immediately obvious which decade or which time period. It's not time-stamped by an effect setup. So there's a lot of manipulation going into the effects for a start. A lot of EQing, of removing low and high frequencies to allow the principal vocal to be the thing that gets most of your attention. I'm still allowing myself, within all of these tracks, a lot of manipulation for different vocal sounds in different settings. I'm going to show you around how I put that together in my mixes. I'm mixing an Elisa song right now, who's an Italian artist. This has all been recorded at Abbey Road, super organic, live orchestra, piano and acoustic guitar. Very simple multi-track. Lots of space, lots of room. Having worked with this artist before, I'm aware that she likes some exploration of different textures, of different ambience. So I'm going to try and show you how I go about creating, say, vocal textures and a vocal ambience that allows me to play with it throughout the duration of the mix and yeah, change the tone of the whole song. And the part for me that I'm going to particularly show you today, or the way I'm going to go about structuring it may be slightly different to everyone else, but it's mainly because I spent so much time working on a console and had faders that I would use as aux sends to throw into delays, choruses, reverbs, whatever you want. I found working in the box, the traditional architecture of busing and routing, quite slow and cumbersome. You know, you have to set up an auxiliary channel, you put the plugin on it, you have to send the aux send off that. So very quickly, and this happened while I was working here on another artist, I wanted to better sort of pick things up and drop them. And below this lead vocal track here, it's created a bunch of audio tracks, not auxiliary returns, audio tracks. And I call them 26, 27, 28, and then there's things like Canyon, Max Jazz. They're all replicas of what I used to do on a console. So sending my lead vocal to 3 faders as subgroups, and then sending that into various, you know, different effects, hardware, software, all sorts. From 26, I would traditionally have sent reverbs. From 27, choruses and widening information. And then from 28 is delays, and delays into reverbs and things like that. So I've still labeled them myself. You can see 26, 27, 27B. The fastest thing is while I'm actually playing the mix, I can just be dropping these tracks down. 26, as I told you, is going to be my vocal throw. I'm doing a fair amount of work already before I even go leave the vocal. So we're going to see quite a lot of EQing, right? Taking off all the low ends, shelving off the high end. I don't want those S's trailing into reverbs. Then I'm soothing it on top. This is before it even hits the reverb. Then we've got a 480 with 10 seconds of decay. Very small amount of pre-delay. So that's a pretty standard long haul. I'm now going to copy that down onto 27. I'm going to get some widening activity going. All right. So let's see what makes that up. Again, shelving hard into the... So now we've got, this is again my version of, say, something like the Delta T that I use, which is the Lexicon delay unit. 2 very short delays, 73 and 117. It's just going to give me some thickness and some width. And especially with this EQ on it, it's going to sound really sort of cotton woolly and warm. All right, so we've got that. Let's see what else we can generate. We're going to go to 27B now, which is going to be another, what's that going into? Okay, this is a chorus pedal that I use a lot. The plugin for this is very good. The hardware is equal, you know, it's very much equal to the hardware, I find. So if I combine all these three now, especially the chorus information, I'm starting to build up quite quickly. All this information at the moment is quite close to me, even except obviously the longer reverb. I'm constantly, while I'm mixing vocals, thinking about focus, you know, if the vocal's up front in my face, what that does, and if I'm going to go into a chorus, how do I achieve depth? So at the moment you can see I've just dragged these audio clips down, and I'll just play around with them, and I'll clip gain up and down to achieve what I want. I remember with this particular song, I wanted something that was quite a sort of complex delay that would kind of do its own thing, and I built something here. All right, so what's going on? I've duplicated the vocal twice, hard panned left and right, you can see. Again, massive sort of EQing, taking out low end and high end into a compressor. Metafilter is a really interesting plugin in that you can make quite drastic changes to your stereo picture just by changing the various modes and feedback options within it. Then I'm feeding that Metafilter into a black hole, so we're getting this like long, repeating echo, which will be super tucked in a mix, but it's just going to give you, you know, a real width option. And if we start hearing all these things together now, so now we're going to show you a couple more drastic effects where I'm going to start putting things like, you know, guitar amps or plug-in amps before I start going into delays and echoes, which is going to give, obviously, anything I send into that just a completely different texture to the original source. And this is an example of, say, a Sans amp going into... So yeah, essentially I've got a stack of the lead vocal copied here onto multiple different tracks. Now, obviously during a mix, you're not going to use everything all the time. At the same time, I can pull anything in and just mute regions. And it's much faster for me, for the way I work, to mute regions than to draw with the pencil and get really like into that. I'm going to do that anyway, but just to get going, this is so fast. I've literally just dragged my lead vocal track, which is this guy here. Elise's vocal track. And while I'm playing this mix and dropping it down, continue to be sort of playing with what goes in. And with the amp tracks that I'm feeding, if I clip gain down, obviously I'm going to feed less into the amp. So it's fast for me in that I'm not having to go here, click bus, go find whatever effect. I've got all my regular effects here, 480, C1 plates and so on. But this just allows me to change scenes quicker than a sort of clicking.
It's gonna take my mind and carry it far away where I can fly the depth of
This is fun because this is like Metafield is doing all sorts of strange little things by itself that I'm not really in control of, but then I'm feeding that into two black hole reverbs, which are then being fed into the EMT and a spring. The effects are now starting to bleed into each other, which does something automatically. A real wide atmosphere for her.